Hey, real quick before the video starts, just wanted to say that the SF plushie is still available, so if you want to buy one, head to the link in the description. Yeah, that's it. Back to the video. Believe it or not, Sega and Nintendo were once pretty huge rivals. That was until every Sega console after the Genesis failed, eventually forcing Sega to go completely third party. And with that, Sonic fans' worst nightmare became a reality. Sonic games started appearing on Nintendo consoles. Ugh, I know, I'm sorry. But truly, in retrospect, this was probably the best decision. Without any console to worry about, Sega would put their full focus into making Sonic games the best they could possibly be. Sometimes. Yeah, even after all of this happened, Sonic games to this day have been wildly inconsistent in terms of reception and quality. While Nintendo has been consistently pumping out bangers for Mario and their other franchises, for the most part, Sega hasn't really been doing the best. Yeah, we had some good games, but for every Sonic Mania, there's a Sonic Forces, if you catch my drift. So that got me thinking, what if Sonic was owned by Nintendo? What if Sonic was lined up next to Nintendo's flagship franchises, like Mario, Zelda, Kirby, Metroid, even Xenoblade, if you're one of those guys? What if we got Sonic games that were on par with the quality and innovation of all of those franchises? Well, it sounds great on paper, but I feel like a lot of issues would arise if this were to happen. Let's start with game quality and polish. I think this is something that Sonic could really benefit from. You see, as much as I love Sonic Frontiers, you can tell that Sonic Team was not given enough time to fully flesh this game out to its fullest potential, and that's just something we gotta live with. But at least Shadow Generations was heavily polished, and it ended up being one of the best 3D Sonic games because of it. But usually, these games always have at least one aspect that feels rushed, unpolished, or just outright bad, and that's been a trend in pretty much every 3D Sonic game. It's especially present in games like 06, where nearly every part of that game wasn't finished, but they just had to push it out quickly to capitalize on holiday sales. Now, let's look at Nintendo's games. While yes, there are so many Nintendo games that lack any sort of issues like glitches or bugs, I don't think it's fair to say that all of them are fully realized. Let's look at Mario Odyssey, for example. This is a fantastic game, I love it to death, but am I the only one who thinks that the post-game content is pretty subpar? Seriously, after you beat the game, the extra moons, the dark side, the Mushroom Kingdom, and the darker side all feel very underbaked. It's still more content, but it gets to a point where collecting moons feels useless and boring, especially when they're all spread out in the most uninteresting spots. For a series that strives on presenting new and fun ideas everywhere you look, Mario Odyssey only really does that for half of the game. Now, when it comes to things like graphics and frame rate, this is something that I think Nintendo really needs to improve on. Okay, yes, the hardware limitations of the Switch definitely have a hand in some of these games running like absolute dog shit, but it's still an issue. And for a game like Sonic, where the main gimmick is going fast, lower frame rates are a terrible hindrance to the experience. However, in the case of games like Mario Wonder, it was confirmed that the development team pretty much had unlimited time to work on the game, and I think that paid off entirely. But I don't see Sega ever doing something like that with Sonic Team. Again, deadlines have killed so many Sonic games, but I don't think that would be a problem with a Nintendo-developed Sonic game. So, given better hardware and optimization, I think Nintendo could make a very high-quality Sonic game with several new ideas. But will those ideas positively affect the gameplay? Sonic is fast, and that's what sets its gameplay apart from other platformers. You don't really see anything in Mario games that requires quick reaction time and input. So that just begs the question, how would Nintendo handle Sonic speed? And this is one of the main problems for me. While I have no doubt that Nintendo has some of the most talented game designers, would they have more experience in making a high-speed platformer than Sonic Team? I don't think so. Nintendo does have experience with high-speed games, mainly racing games. But still, given how unique Sonic is compared to other games, I don't think they would handle that gameplay correctly. And I know you might be thinking to yourself, well, Sonic Team doesn't know what they're doing either. The boost sucks. And I understand where you're coming from, but look at games like Sonic Unleashed or Sonic Generations. I think those games perfectly represent the ideal Sonic gameplay, even if it doesn't have that momentum or whatever. It's fun, and it's what makes Sonic unique. And I just don't think that Nintendo would be able to capture that better than Sega and Sonic Team. Another thing that sets Sonic apart from other games is the story and characters. Most Nintendo games, especially Mario games, don't have a well thought out plot and story for the most part. Most of the time, it mainly just boils down to going to save Princess Peach with some extra flair thrown in there. there. Sure, you had games like Mario Galaxy, which did sprinkle in some more story elements, and bro, Galaxy is such a good game, goddamn. But yeah, that was it. And as for the characters themselves, sure, you have your occasional character art, but for most Nintendo games, the protagonists are very one-dimensional, and I don't hate that. But with Sonic, I feel like it's important to get his character right. Sonic needs to have a certain personality and attitude to make the story click, and that's pretty much why games like Colors or Forces don't get much praise for their stories. It's because in those games, Sonic isn't the Sonic that we're normally used to. And yeah, I don't think Nintendo would handle this aspect well, because for their platformers and even some of their other games, they don't focus on this sort of thing. Also, kind of going with the story and characters, there's also just the general aesthetic of the games. Sonic does not stick to one particular art style or design philosophy. It feels like each game tries a new visual style. And Nintendo has been doing this too. Using Mario as an example, again, yes, I know, I am a Mario fan. With games like 3D World and 3D Land, they used a simpler, cartoony, bubbly look. But in games like Odyssey, they tone up the realism a little bit. The main problem for me is that, will they try to make Sonic games look like Mario games? And you know what, f it, let's go ahead and bring up Sonic Lost World. I know, it's kind of crazy how we've gone this long without mentioning this game. As you may know, this game was developed by Sonic Team with heavy influence from Nintendo. This was one of the games in Sega and Nintendo's exclusivity deal, where they both agreed to have 3 Sonic games exclusive to Nintendo consoles. And because of that, Sega saw this as an opportunity to make Sonic Lost World appeal as much as possible to Mario fans. So all of the environments were generic, the gameplay was way slower and more platforming focused, and the art style was super cartoony and colorful. It did not feel like a modern 3D Sonic game. If they made a 2D Sonic game with all of this, then whatever. I think classic Sonic would look great in a game like this. But for 3D Sonic, this felt so completely disconnected from those previous games, especially since they completely ditched the boost gameplay in favor of a style that focused heavily on parkour and platforming, with the Wisps serving as power-ups and bosses that resemble the Koopalings. This was literally a Mario 3D World clone, but with Sonic. Now, if Nintendo did make a Sonic game today, I don't think it would be like this at all, because they already have so many other franchises to make a colorful platformer like this. But on that same note, that's kind of the whole reason why I think Nintendo would ultimately mishandle Sonic. They already have platforming franchises to focus on. Even though Sonic and Mario have their differences, they're talked about together for a reason. Sonic was made to rival Mario in both character and gameplay. But if one company owned both of those franchises, then what would happen? Well, one would definitely get more attention than the other, and come on, it will be Mario every single time. Mario has the greater appeal, the more well-received games, and he's just more recognizable than Sonic. And even with the movies, despite the Sonic movies generally being more well received than the Mario movie, Mario is the highest grossing video game movie of all time as of now, until Minecraft takes over. And at the end of the day, money is all that matters to these companies. Mario will probably always perform better than Sonic in any media. So if Nintendo owned Sonic, he would probably get neglected in favor of Nintendo's other IPs. It would kill the series. So in conclusion, I don't really think it would be that good if Sonic were owned by Nintendo. While the extra development power and non-strict deadlines could bring new ideas and innovation to the series, I can only see that lasting 1 or 2 games before the series is just killed off entirely. And again, let's be real here. I think Sonic Team overall would make a better Sonic game than Nintendo. Even if Nintendo provides more polish and ideas, Sonic would lose what made him so unique in the first place, the thing that originally put him up against Mario. But that's all for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.